World building cultures is complicated. You need months of painstaking research to create a believable fantasy culture, right? Wrong. I'm Janet from World Anvil, and as a published author and game writer, I've learned that world building doesn't have to be overwhelming. You can actually build a pretty rich culture for your RPG world or fantasy world right now by answering just 4 questions. Don't believe me? I'm going to prove it, using examples from some of the most successful fantasy worlds ever created. This is the culture world building template that gets your readers and players curious and excited to learn more. Question 1. What are the naming rules? Think about how your culture approaches names. Do they even use family names? If so, are they patrilineal, matrilineal, or something else altogether? Maybe they take the name of the parent with the greatest status, or create a new compound surname. Maybe they have clan names based on their ancestors' deeds, or tied to a specific location or occupation. Perhaps they choose their own names when they come of age. Also, consider whether first names are gendered. Do masculine and feminine names end in different sounds? Are there ungendered naming traditions? Let's look at some classic examples from fantasy. The Tabaxi, the catfolk in D&D, have names steeped in fate, the stars, and the land. Their gender-neutral first name is chosen by their clan, a short descriptive phrase that's rich in prophecy, astrology, and meaning. Most Tabaxi go by a nickname derived from it. Their clan name is often based on geography. For example, Feather on the River might go by the nickname Feather or River, and might have a clan name like Stony Falls. In the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb, characters' surnames often reflect their family's defining characteristic or skill, like Fitzchivalry Farseer, which indicates his family skill is in far-seeing magic. In A Song of Ice and Fire, last names are all about status. Peasants have no last names. Noblewomen sometimes refuse their consort's last name if their own family status is higher. Bitch, please. And bastard names are given to children with a high-born parent, like Jon Snow. It's both stigma and a mark of status. So why start with names? Well, when you think through a culture's naming system, you're already determining the things they value and prioritize, and how they view the world. It's literally woven into their personal identities. And that means that the moment your readers and players learn a character's name, they're learning about the culture itself. By the way, if you really want to dive into more world-building names, we have a whole video on how to create fantasy names that make sense. Question 2. What are your culture's ideals and aspirations? Because ideals and aspirations are where your culture really comes alive. For example, what do they consider handsome or beautiful, and why? Maybe they value elaborate tattoos or ceremonial scarification. Are signs of devotion and personal sacrifice attractive? Perhaps signs of aging, like grey hair or wrinkles, garner great respect in a warrior culture where few live to old age. Do their beauty ideals prioritize uniqueness, meaning rare qualities are revered and admired? Or do they prize conformity, meaning there's a rigid standard and those who don't fit are outcasts? And how do these ideals affect gender roles and expectations, and vice versa? It's also worth thinking about courtship. Is it formal with strict rules or more flexible? Do people marry for love, status, or alliances? And is that different for different social classes within your culture? Are relationships typically monogamous, or do they have different structures? And what does an ideal family unit look like? The kind of family people dream of. How is it made up? And is power held by one or shared within the family unit? And speaking of ideals, what does every kid want to be when they grow up? Which are the most prestigious jobs and why? And which are the least prestigious? This speaks a lot to how the society organizes itself and what it values, as well as how the environment affects the culture and vice versa. Are there codes of conduct or honor systems? And do they apply to the whole culture or just specific groups? What rules of etiquette, religion, social customs, and taboos do they observe? Looking for a few examples? In Forgotten Realms, Drow have a matriarchal system, which shapes everything from beauty standards to relationships. The riders of Rohan in Tolkien's world value horsemanship and warrior prowess above everything. In The Dragon Riders of Pern by Anne McCaffrey, there's a complex social hierarchy with castes of dragon riders, crafters, and holders, all of whom have different statuses under different conditions. In Star Trek, the Klingons have a complex honor system, and they prize warriors and the warrior way of life above all. Remember, the choices you make should reflect your culture's values and environment. Question 3. What are the touchstones of daily life? This is where you can go really deep with your culture, but don't feel overwhelmed. Remember, you can focus on just a few elements that really matter for your story and themes, and use your world building focus points, the ones from your world building meta, to help guide you. Introducing technology at this point can be helpful. So what technology level have they attained? Are they living a subsistence lifestyle, or do they have magical or technological conveniences that make leisure time possible? And if they have leisure time, what do they do with it? Are they obsessed with games, or sports, or theatre? And who are their heroes, either historical figures or mythic leaders? Next, consider the way daily life looks, it sounds and it smells. What is your culture's aesthetic when it comes to clothing, art and architecture? What materials, styles and colours do they favour or reject? What's their food like? Think about ingredients that influence their cuisine, like spices for people who live on a trade route, or seafood for a coastal culture. Seafood. What kinds of music do they enjoy? What languages or dialects do they speak? And what does that sound like? And finally, what are their rites of passage like? What are their ceremonies and traditions around birth and naming, and initiation into the tribe? What about coming of age, marriage, and death rites? Remember, you don't need to develop all of these. Pick what excites you or is most relevant for your setting or story. Maybe your culture is known for their unique architectural style, or perhaps their unique music traditions drive the plot. It's better to deeply develop a few aspects than to spread yourself too thin trying to cover everything. Before we continue, let me show you something that will make this process a lot easier. World Anvil's Cultures and Ethnicities template has dedicated sections and prompts for everything we're discussing today. That'll help you write down and organise your work and keep it safe and sound for when you need to reference it. And as a bonus point, you don't have to remember the questions from this video, they're all in the prompts. And finally, question 4. How is your culture connected to the wider world? Few cultures exist in isolation, and they rarely come from nowhere. So where do these people live? Did they descend from your cultures of your world's history? What organizations do they belong to? Dragon marks in Eberron shape entire family lines, houses, and nations. The glacial territory in the water tribes of Avatar, The Last Airbender, deeply affect the cultures there. The free cities of Essos were founded as Valyrian colonies, which affected how the cultures grew and developed over time. These connections help your culture feel part of a living, breathing world. And remember, the way they interact with your other cultures is important too. Do they reject or welcome strangers? Are they eager for the next new thing from abroad, or isolationist and traditionalist? Now I'm curious, what's your favourite fantasy culture and why? Is it the Riders of Rohan, the Drow, or the waterbenders? Drop it in the comments below. And if you found this helpful, you'll love our deep dive into fantasy naming rules. It is a most requested topic from our community because names are hard. Click the link on the screen now to learn the secrets behind names that also make sense for your setting. You know what to do. Grab your hammer and go world build.